Tonight, we're headed for southern Colorado, where locals, even Republicans, are frustrated President Trump blocked their clean drinking water project.
I was shocked. I was disappointed.
Senator Michael Bennet says Trump's crusade against Colorado is a revenge tour. I'll ask him whether the president is within his rights to punish this state.
I think it's very important for us to push back and also say we need a better standard for our president, frankly.
Hospitals in Colorado change what care they offer to avoid angering the president. And we'll take a break from the news to make room for the good news in the lives of our neighbors.
Sarah's good news is she turned 1 year old yesterday.
That's tonight on Next. President Trump just blocked a clean drinking water project for rural counties in southern Colorado that overwhelmingly voted for him. Trump's repeatedly said he's looking to punish Colorado for keeping Tina Peters in prison for her scheme to tamper with voting systems. Our Mark Salinger went down to Bent County, where the Coloradans who need clean drinking water aren't interested in politics or revenge.
In southeastern Colorado, there's a belief that clean drinking water is a basic human need, not a political issue. But President Trump's veto this week to fund a vital water conduit in the area is testing that. The small town of Las Animas in Bent County would benefit from the Arkansas Valley conduit if it's ever finished. The town relies on an expensive reverse osmosis system that also produces a lot of dirty wastewater. In other parts of the valley, the water people drink is not clean and potentially harmful. For decades, they've been hoping the water conduit would pipe clean water from Pueblo into their town. Trump's veto of the bill that passed the House and Senate unanimously threatens that.
The first thing that went through my mind was, really? I mean, I was shocked. I was disappointed. Particularly, I know people well who have spent their adult lives working and focusing on this work and on this project, and I was disheartened.
Kim McDonnell is a former county commissioner in Bent County and a lifelong resident here. She's a Republican, but she's struggling to understand why the president wants to halt this project. Bent County is one of the poorest in the state, and she says something as basic as clean drinking water would help bring more people and industry to her area.
Why do we veto this project that is meeting such a deep human need at this particular time, in this particular place? You know, a lot of eastern Colorado and southeast Colorado is very heavily Republican and supportive of the current administration.
Trump says the project is expensive and unreliable, but the people that live here don't see it that way. They see it as a lifeline, something far bigger than politics. In Las Animas, for Next, I'm Mark Salinger.
Construction on the Arkansas Valley conduit started in 2023. It was during President Trump's first term when his team proudly took credit for the project, saying that America used to be the kind of nation that built things. That project is far from built out at this point, and the local governments on the route say they cannot finish it without federal support. Our next conversation tonight is with Democratic Senator Michael Bennet, who we should say is also running for governor in 2026. Bennet has worked to get that Arkansas Valley conduit completed for all 15 years that he's been in the Senate. I asked him today if this feud with Trump is going to cost Colorado clean water funding and science funding at NCAR, disaster funding, the military command, space command, should Colorado just give President Trump what he wants and free his political ally? Is there any point that you say, whether it's that or whether it's NREL or anything else, maybe we just give the man what he wants? Just let Tina Peters out of prison. If that'll get him to turn his focus onto another blue state, just give the man what he wants and maybe he'll go away.
I think that is a recipe for disaster, Kyle. I think that is a recipe for a race to the bottom that could destroy our democracy. You know, it really matters. The rule of law really matters. Our system of federalism really matters. You talked about what Donald Trump has the right to do as president and what he doesn't have the right to do as president. He has no right to pardon Tina Peters, who was convicted by a jury of her peers in a state court in Colorado. He has no right to take away money that's been appropriated by the U.S. Congress just because he doesn't like the state of Colorado.
Well,
I'll never say the Arkansas Valley conduit is dead, because we've been fighting for it since the day I walked into the Senate, and we've been fighting to keep that promise, at least somebody has, since JFK made it in Pueblo. So we are going to keep fighting. We're going to try to work to see if an override is possible. You know, I hope we can get it back on the president's desk, but it's going to take people in the Senate and the House standing up for the Congress, standing up for the rights that Congress has.
Do you think that President Trump, with the permission of Republicans in Congress, is essentially making Congress irrelevant?
I think that he is working to try to make Congress irrelevant, and I think he's largely making Congress irrelevant. We have fought very hard for him not to be able to do that.
When our next conversation with Senator Bennet continues, I will ask him if he regrets his support for so many of President Trump's cabinet nominees who are assisting with what Bennet calls Trump's revenge tour. There is one vote in particular that Bennet says he really regrets. Hospitals in Colorado are now taking steps to ensure that they are not the next targets of the Trump administration. Children's Hospital Colorado and Denver Health are suspending gender-affirming care for minors as the feds threaten to pull millions in federal funding. The Department of Health and Human Services is threatening to withhold Medicaid and Medicare funding from hospitals that provide gender-affirming care for minors. We should be clear, neither Denver Health nor Children's performs gender-affirming surgeries on minors, but we're talking about care. They're suspending prescriptions for puberty blockers and hormone therapy for people under the age of 18. Children says the suspension will continue while they, quote, await federal court rulings and assess the rapidly evolving legal landscape. Children's Hospital is also currently fighting a federal subpoena seeking access to patient records and personnel records from the gender-affirming care program there. The hospital says the release of those sensitive medical records could, quote, exacerbate fear and disruption in the community. The USDA is announcing how much financial aid will be given to farmers who are suffering as a result of President Trump's trade war against the world. The payments are part of a $12 billion aid package that President Trump announced earlier this year. There are farmers seeing their profits plummet due to increasing tariffs and, in particular, tension with China. Soybean farmers have been especially hard hit. The USDA says they will get a subsidy of about $30 per acre. Corn farmers can expect $44 per acre. The aid payments will be capped at $155,000 per farmer, and there will be income caps on who can apply. Wildlife workers are now hunting for a third mountain lion in Larimer County after a woman was killed in a suspected mountain lion attack on a hiking trail yesterday. The incident happened on a trail on Crozier Mountain, about 20 miles west of Loveland. Other hikers came upon the body of the woman, who apparently was hiking alone. They told first responders they saw a mountain lion near her body. They were able to scare it away with rocks, but by the time they got to her, she didn't have a pulse. The victim's name has not been released. CPW says 2 mountain lions were already tracked in that area and euthanized. They'll be tested for human DNA and diseases like rabies. That trail's still closed today while CPW tracks down a third lion seen in the area.
Any wildlife involved in attack on humans must be put down, and that's just for human safety. That's our main priority for CPW, is keeping everyone around us safe. So if we don't know which lion was involved, if it could be multiple lions, we don't have that information, we're going to choose to euthanize.
Days before investigators finished their tests on the 2 mountain lions that were killed to confirm whether they were involved in that attack. These incidents, serious incidents with people, are very rare. CPW says there have been 28 recorded mountain lion attacks in Colorado since 1990. Last fatal attack was back in 1999. For a decade in Denver, survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence have found comfort and hope and skilled advocates at the Rose Andom Center. But those survivors have had to go elsewhere for the physical exams that allow them to bring their perpetrators to justice. We can help fix that. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign will help bring SANE exams to the nonprofit Rose Andom Center. The whole idea of that center is that a single place offering support and resources for survivors helps to limit trauma, so they don't have to go all over town and tell their story 10 times. But to get the exams that they need from a specially trained nurse, survivors currently have to go elsewhere. The leaders at Rose Andom tell me that there are limited places in town where survivors can get one of those SANE exams. The center has the clinic space on site. They have the provider lined up. They just need the funding. And fortunately for them, I know the most generous group of Coloradans around. So scan that QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to get the link to donate. You know that even $5 helps, because 5 years of pooling your $5 donations has raised $17 million for nonprofits in Colorado. 7,000 of you have signed up to not just give once, but to make a monthly donation to the Word of Thanks Fund. You put in your information once, pick your donation amount, and each month your donations automatically split among all the nonprofits we feature. So you help everybody all over the state. In November, those recurring givers added an astonishing $50,000 per week. A coal plant in northwestern Colorado is being forced to keep running under orders from the Trump administration, despite long-standing plans to shut down that coal plant. State leaders, environmental groups, even the utility that runs the plant say this decision is likely to cost customers big time. Energy Secretary Chris Wright, who is an oil and gas executive from Colorado, issued an emergency order this week requiring that Unit 1 of Craig Station in Moffat County stay online until at least the end of March. The order came at the 11th hour, just one day before that plant was scheduled to close. Secretary Wright says it should help energy affordability. But Tri-State Energy, the owner, says that the plant had a mechanical failure earlier this month, and they're going to have to make expensive repairs to get it working again. They say that they're trying to comply with the Trump administration's order while limiting the costs passed on to customers. An analysis by the environmental advocates at the Sierra Club estimates that running that plant an extra 90 days would cost at least $20 million. Supporters of the decision argue that the extension will be good for the coal mining dependent community and will prevent the loss of hundreds of jobs for the time being. We return now to our next conversation with Democratic Senator Michael Bennet. He supported more of President Trump's cabinet nominees than most Democrats in the Senate, which is likely to become an issue in his Democratic primary campaign for governor this year. Do you look back with regret on voting to confirm so many of his cabinet nominees, including people who, in your view, are actively doing harm to Colorado?
Well, I wouldn't say that I voted for so many, but I feel differently about different of those votes. For example, I voted for Chris Wright, who is the Secretary of Energy, who is from Colorado. You know, and I talked to a lot of people from Colorado who were friends of his. I hope that his long association with Colorado would mitigate some of his worst tendencies with respect to energy policy and also with respect to NREL and NCAR and the rest. And I think I've been totally disappointed in that. I think he's been a terrible Republican cabinet member, and if I had to do all over again, I would have voted a different way. On the other hand, let me just say, I voted for the Secretary of Agriculture, and up till now, I stand by that vote. You know, I was, out of all the Western Democrats and Republicans, I was the only senator that said to the Secretary of Agriculture and Interior, we want a weekly meeting as we go through fire season with all the Republicans and Democrats in the Senate every single week so that we can stay on top of the danger that fire season poses. And they committed to do that. They did do that.
Secretary Rollins is the secretary who tried to pull SNAP benefits out of Colorado.
That's true.
But you stand by your vote for her because of other things you feel she's delivered on.
You asked me whether I regretted my votes, and I regret my vote about Chris Wright. I don't think I should have voted for him. Yeah, I feel differently about the Secretary of Agriculture.
The New York Times is reporting that Interior Department employees have been ordered to make a list of all the Interior Department money that is coming to Colorado and to the state and to locals and to universities to potentially make that part of Trump's retribution campaign. Are you confident that the man that you voted for, Secretary Burgum, will stand up to that?
No, I'm not confident about that, and we'll have to continue to monitor that and assess that.
In my full conversation with Senator Michael Bennet, we also discuss another energy-related issue, how he assesses Xcel Energy's preemptive blackouts to avoid wildfires in Colorado. You can find that full, unedited interview on the next YouTube channel and on 9news.com. Well, it is dumping in Colorado's mountains today, and if you're going to head up to get more turns and you're going to do it in the backcountry, just be very, very smart about it. Colorado Avalanche Information Center issued a special advisory through Sunday for the Elk and West Elk Mountains near Aspen and Crested Butte. And they're also flagging what they call considerable avalanche risk in the Park Range in northern Colorado. CIC is warning people going into the backcountry that conditions could lead to avalanches large enough to seriously hurt or kill somebody. Meteorologist Corey Rappenhagen is along now. Obviously, everybody thinks about snowfall, right, with these avalanches, Corey, but you were telling me that sunshine plays a big role as well.
Yeah, that's a big part of why we have this bad layering right now. What happens in these long dry spells is the freeze-thaw cycle creates little faceted snowflakes or crystals, and you get about 2 or 3 inches of what's kind of like sugar, granular sugar, and that is a weak layer. And this new snow, about 10 to 12 inches of it, sitting on top of that, it's going to slide right off. So we are going to see some avalanches here, quite a few of them over the next day or two. So that warning by the Avalanche Information Center, very serious here. But we do have the snow starting to die down now. You can see this live picture from the Champaign Powder Cam and Steamboat. Just a few flurries, about 4 inches at mid-mountain here. They got about 10 to 12 inches up in the Park Range. So they did get some significant snow in spots. But the big story here across the Front Range this weekend is going to be high heat, maybe record heat, and elevated grass fire danger. The National Weather Service has issued a fire weather watch that includes most of the I-25 corridor south of Denver, 45-mile-per-hour wind gusts, 12 to 18% humidity. That's something to keep a close eye on, in particular on Sunday. Here's the temperatures tomorrow, though. Pretty warm once again into the 60s, most likely here in Denver, upper 50s in some spots across the Front Range and the Eastern Plains. And this is your 7-day forecast in Denver. 67 is the record on Broncos Sunday. We'll be right in that neighborhood, and a slow decline into stock show weather. Possible snow flurries coming up here for the stock show parade on Thursday.
My good news is that I'm here. I'm with the dinosaurs.
Until this program's extinct, we will make time every Friday for the run-of-the-mill good news and the lives of our neighbors. Hey, a reminder, you can catch Next streaming each night, 6 p.m. on 9 News Plus, and Next is a podcast wherever you find those. Dinosaurs had a good run, and until a comet of sorts comes for this program, we will spend our Friday digging up answers to our favorite Friday question. What's your good news?
It's just kind of cool. It's just like getting that feeling of stepping back through time. It's always so much fun, just seeing all the kids wide-eyed and everything when they come in.
My good news is that I'm here. I'm with the dinosaurs.
My good news is I'm getting married this June.
My good news is I like dinosaurs.
My good news is 2026 will be 19 years of friendship with my best friend. Met in boot camp, and then 19 years later, we ended up living together.
My good news is that I like dinosaurs.
My good news is that we just opened up a new company. I also manage a restaurant called the Taco Stop, and we just won the best Mexican food of Colorado and the best taco.
So this is Sarah. She's kind of like our mascot for the place. Sarah's good news is she turned 1 year old yesterday. So she's still a little baby and everything, but she just turned 1 year old on New Year's Day.
My good news is that I like this exhibit.
It's exciting, it's relaxing. I'm a kindergarten teacher, so I'm enjoying like the last few days of break.
My good news is that I'm just blessed, I'm healthy, and I got a roof over my head, clothes, shoes on my feet, nothing more that I can ask for. I got a great family, good support system, and all around blessed.
We are back with your feedback about this monstrosity next. Feedback tonight about Trump's veto of the Arkansas Valley Conduit Water Project. Eileen in Fort Collins says, if that water pipeline was voted through Congress unanimously, isn't that a veto-proof majority? And Susan also says, why is a veto override not being discussed? Fantastic question. In order for there to be a veto override, it doesn't happen automatically. The Republicans who control the House and the Senate would have to call it up to vote for it, and they could risk angering Trump. We haven't seen a lot of appetite from Republicans for that. Larry in LaSalle writes, every man looks better with a beard, except you.